Hey, fellow traveler. Welcome to the Third Eye Awakening podcast, a show where we talk all about spiritual and psychic awakening, magic, the shift from 3D to 5D, star seeds, ascension, multiple timelines, multiple dimensions, the universe, the multiverse, the Akashic records, all the good things. I am your host, Amy Belair, and I'm so glad to have you here with me today. Okay, let's do this. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Third Eye Awakening. I'm so excited to have Brittany Gordine back with me today because she is a sister goddess priestess and we're just, very connected. And we just were having like a preliminary conversation about divine feminine, divine masculine energy, Lemurian energy, the sort of energy courting, all kinds of good stuff. So I don't know where this is going to go, but I think it's going to be great. So hold on. Hi, Brittany. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your time with us today.
Hi, Amy, and all of Amy's amazing network of beautiful souls. I've had such just amazing feedback since being on your podcast the first time, and so many beautiful people that I've connected to through it. So I love your tribe, and I'm super excited to be here.
I love my audience. So thanks for recognizing that. I love my audience. I just think that there's so many brilliant, open, awakening, and awakened souls in this group. So I'm excited to share our conversation with them. And I don't even really know, normally I have a structure, but so I reached out to Brittany in January because I was feeling this really strong activation of Lemurian energy. And I didn't even really know how to process it or what it meant. And I was like, who can I talk to about this? And Brittany was the first person that came to mind. So I don't even know what we're going to talk about, but it seems like she and I have, we haven't probably connected since maybe December, I think, directly, but it seems like being called to similar kinds of work again, in terms of activating the divine feminine and through that, the divine masculine, and doing a lot of healing around all of that. So Brittany, do you want to kind of share what has been coming through for you? What kind of downloads for the collective have been coming through?
Absolutely. Yeah, I love when you reached out and you brought up Lemuria, because Lemuria is one of the portals of energy through which I first really got called to this work. And it actually came to me through internal awakening experience. I had a cellular remembering of what Lemuria was and the frequency of that dimension. So a lot of people that I talk to have never heard of Lemuria, and a lot of my clients who I feel the calling to help awaken these light codes for have no concept of what it is. So I'd love to just kind of jump in for anyone curious about Lemuria. So Lemuria is basically an dimensional experience, past, present, future, time, not being linear. It's this other vibration of energy that really represents a heaven on earth consciousness, where we are all completely embodied in this really divine, pure, sacred union of our masculine and feminine energies. And there's a lot of stories about a lot of different aspects of Lemurian energy that exist out there. But my personal experience was when I first came into union with my soul counterpart, King vibration, which happened in a very mystical way. We had this experience within the first week of meeting where we were exchanging sensual and sexual energies. And we both experienced this jolt where we shot out of our bodies and went up this dimensional stairwell into this experience of us as these individuated pillars of light, pure divine light. And it felt I don't know, ninth dimension, 11th dimension, I don't know the number, but it just felt like this whole other experience of ourselves, completely separate from the concept of personality, ego, past lives, human, just complete pure divine light. And I was downloaded that this was our Lemurian roots. And so in this frequency, this heaven on earth dimension that we are all embodying, anchoring into as we move forward in this time-space reality, where there is unity, there is oneness, there is like pure divine bliss, being in more embodiment of our light energy, being more wave than particle. And throughout my journey since that time, I've had a lot of awakenings and a lot of work that I do with healing a lot of wounds around the fall of Lemuria. So there's many different stories and expressions of ways in which this happened. But basically, we were these pillars of light, completely in embodiment of like bliss, heaven on earth. Everything is like flowing, abundant, beautiful, gorgeous, this like mystical crystal castle of the most like luminescent energy and community, and just like all like super healthy and just like no pain, illness, separation, war, like just this pure, pure, pure experience. And there came a point where a frequency of the desire to individuate and separate and create duality between the masculine and feminine essences of ourselves came online. So this expressed itself as the masculine desiring the freedom to go explore more of the universe, to separate off from this dimension of the known into the void of what else can I explore in this universe. And that left with the feminine this core wound, this core energetic frequency of the fear of abandonment, right? Because it's like, we're already in heaven on earth. Everything's blissful. Everything's perfect. Everything's divine. Like, why would you want to go leave this to go into this frequency of not knowing what else is out there? And like, why would you want to leave here? Right. So this expresses itself in our, and we all have both of these energies within us, the masculine and the feminine, like core wounds. Our masculine core wound is this fear of being entrapped, fear of not being free, fear of not being able to expand and being contained, and this like rebellious intention to want to like run, right? So we have that part of us that can express itself as like running from like pure divine love, running from our partner, running from the feminine aspect of ourself to go like manipulate, control, and charge forth out of this deep-seated fear of being contained. There's a healthy expression of that where like this desire for freedom and expansion and like never ending potential for growth can be aligned. And then within the feminine, this deep-seated rooted like fear of abandonment, and that things can't stay that good. There's going to be this betrayal. There's going to be this not safety of like really trusting myself to be in pure divine bliss, love, all of these beautiful frequencies of pleasure that Lemuria represented because of that wound of the masculine separating off. There's also a lot of incarnations and timelines for which Lemuria had like actual like physical destruction, and we have like within our cellular DNA a lot of remembering of basically this heaven on earth vibration where things were the best, and it then ended in a way that was very sad, traumatizing, and left like this duality. And so in that like separation frequency from that like pure divine source of light, it actually created like the physical human body for us to be in these individuated expressions of like pure form, more particle than wave.
Mm.
And what I have been downloaded with as part of my mission and the work that I do is to restore our Lemurian essence and our Lemurian DNA and our Lemurian trust, embodiment, knowing of that sacred union energy of divine feminine and masculine within ourselves and in partnership, and to be able to trust and surrender into this experience of letting things be really blissful, beautiful, abundant. Like I have so many clients who come to me and like in partnership, they just have this deep-seated fear of like their partner leaving them, or this deep-seated fear of not being free, right? Like of being contained. And when we address like some of this Lemurian trauma, we can move forward into this next level of expansion of embodying these codes where the human aspect of us and this Lemurian aspect of us get to come into unity.
Mm, I love that. And I love that you specified that we both carry the, the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Therefore, we can both express these wounds. It's not to say that all women, people born with, like women parts, are afraid of abandonment, and all men are afraid of being entrapped. It's like whatever is the dominant energy that carries that wound frequency within us, because I can think of a lot of women who really feel it trapped by having a womb, and like fear being trapped by motherhood and that kind of stuff. And I can also think of a lot of men who have experienced abandonment and so therefore carry that particular wound. So it's not about, you know, like the boxing women into one category or men into one category. It's like those are sort of, that's the dynamic of the primal wounds that we carry from that experience, like in our sort of history, air quotes, because time is nonlinear, but at a different frequency of ourselves that decided to come here to this realm and play out duality and separation.
Yeah, I actually have a lot of women who I work with currently who are going through this like wild Shakti womb awakening where their sexual wildness and pleasure and expression and embodiment of confidence of their sensuality is igniting like all of this desire for like immense freedom. And this kind of links into like even beyond Lemuria. So a big part of my work is called healing the threefold flame. So these are like three different aspects of our lineage, and it's power, love, and wisdom. And so the Lemurian energy is really linked into the flame of love, and Atlantis energy is really linked into the flame of our power. So in this expression, kind of like after the Lemurian frequency, there's also this part of us that has experienced like a toxic masculine kind of suppression of feminine energy. So that's like another layer that wants to be integrated, right? So like as we go through this like womb awakening to this like super divine Shakti power, that desire for freedom is being expressed in that way. And like that, so it's like you're carrying both. It's like you don't want to abandon the part of yourself that feels connected to this wildness, but you also desire for like the freedom to express it. So it's like we're all carrying all of it all of the time.
I love this. This is so interesting. It's so from my end, I've been receiving these transmissions, I call them. I'm running a program called the Priestess Portal, which is sort of like, I don't know, an initiation program for women who feel like they're templated with the priestess archetype. And what's coming through the transmissions is like, so much really cool information about the original uncorrupted blueprint of the divine feminine, the divine masculine. It's very similar to what you're talking about, I think, which is so, I don't know, it's like validating. It feels so real for me that it's not like I was, feeling like, oh, I really need validation for it. But it's nonetheless super cool to hear that similar things are coming through other people, even men that I've been in conversation with, of like returning to that blueprint and finally cleaning up all that unconscious wounding that we've been carrying around so that we can experience ourselves in balance and in our power together and come into union, however, like sexual union, romantic union, like community support union, all the ways that we can come into union in a balanced way that truly like exalts both the divine feminine and the divine masculine energy.
I love that. So with this like priestess portal awakening, tell me more about like what that download has been for you in terms of what that process is for guiding people through. Because I think that that's what you and I both really connect on is this download that we are priestess frequency initiators. And I didn't really even realize that's what I was doing until I was in the middle of a session. And it was like, oh, you have all of these priestess lineage light codes and the priestess frequency. For me, at least, I experienced it very much connected to like ancient Egypt and there's like all these different archetypes, the empress, the priestess, the princess, the goddess, the mermaid, the fairy, like all of these divine feminine archetypes. And the priestess to me is like this divine embodiment of sacral power, womb wisdom, pleasure as a portal for manifestation, and pleasure as a like North Star guiding light through that sacral chakra and reigniting that power in a way that's really safe. And so for me in the work that I do with like the priestess initiation energy, a lot of it has to do with moving energy out of the third eye where we have stored it and kept it kind of for safekeeping. So that and there's like a lot of energies, especially related to the priestess wounding, where there's been violation of our sexual energy. There has been trauma. There has been manipulation. There has been lack of pure intentions. There's been like our siren energy, where there's been just manipulation. All the ways in which the purity of intention and divinity connected to that sacral power, that womb wisdom, and that sexual energy has manifested in lower vibrational expressions of like lust or rape or trauma through the childbirth experience. And because of that trauma, a lot of women on multidimensional levels, their souls have taken a lot of the power and the frequency and the energy and the awareness that exists in that womb center, and they've put it into another part of their being in order to just protect themselves. Because if all that power were activated and it on some level magnetized or attracted unwanted experiences in our like cellular memory as a way to protect ourselves, we move the energy. Then that manifests into a lot of overabundance of head brain thinking, masculine, linear, overwhelm, stress, just being in our head too much, not being in our body, not being connected to that womb wisdom. And I think that that's a big part of the awakening and the initiations that you and I are both being called to right now, is to move some of that energy back out of the head and make it really safe to experience the full power of the womb.
Yeah, and the womb heart connection. And it's interesting that you're talking about coming back into the body, because the last transmission that I received was so much around like the lower chakras, so like the root chakra and the sacral and the solar plexus, and the way that they manifest through the feminine portal, like the feminine body, I guess. And it's so hard to talk about, because when this is probably the most powerful channeling experience I've ever allowed myself to open up to, where I kind of can't even fully remember what I said afterwards. I just remember is sort of what I'm left with, but they get recorded for the people who are in the program. But what is so interesting was like, I started to see, oh, like what the actual, like, I went into a transmission about divine feminine sexual power and sexual energy, and understanding it as like the magnetic force of the universe that pulls forth the raw materials required for creation, and then gestates those raw materials. And it's like, it can't be separated. Like there's no, it's so beautiful the way that it's come through. It's like those dualities are in permanent marriage. They can't be separated. You can't eradicate one. The divine feminine can't be eradicated, despite, centuries of attempts to do so. And the divine masculine is like, I don't know, it's a portal of its own that like issues forth the raw materials for creation. And the divine feminine is the magnetic element that pulls forth those raw materials, and they come together to create new things together. Obviously the most obvious being a new human being, but not just a human being. Like we kind of have the tropes of the artist and the muse, and that's a really perfect example, albeit kind of flawed, but where the divine feminine is so magnetic that she pulls out the creative impulse of the often masculine artist, who then creates beautiful works of art inspired by her existence. And it kind of reminds me of like the dance of flowers and bees and other pollinators. Like
Mm.
we're just in this beautiful co-creative dance together constantly. One can't exist without the other, and we exalt each other. And we've, through this interesting evolutionary experience we've been through, we've become really separated from that and have received so much wounding around it. Both of us, both the feminine and the masculine, have received so much wounding about what our role is really supposed to be. And one of the amazing things that I saw is that it was never it was our actual blueprint was never intended that a woman just gets pregnant because somebody has ejaculated inside of her, which is kind of how it works now. But it was supposed to be like a full calling in of another soul on like multiple levels of readiness and conscious awareness. It's starting to come back into the collective memory. It's being called conscious conception, but it was even more controlled than that. And it was like mainly called through the couple of the divine feminine, the divine masculine in union, but also by the whole community, because this soul is, a member of the extended family of the community. And so it was never meant to be this thing where like, somebody just like we just accidentally get pregnant, or we just we get into where we're either violated or raped, or have a fling and it results in a pregnancy that wasn't intended. Like it's not actually supposed to be like that, and we get to return to the way that it was really truly meant to be. So it's so much similarly like womb magic and sexual magic and like rootedness in the earth, but also our connection to the cosmic and those higher dimensional templates, really.
Love that. I love that you've been getting these downloads because they're like so similar to downloads that I've been getting on a lot of levels. I've been getting a lot as well around like this revival and rehabilitation of the expression of our lower three chakras through the portal of the heart, these higher realms, and getting out of the wounding of the lower three chakras, our insecurity, our disconnection from our pleasure, our feelings of being unsafe, like all of these lower vibrational survival emotions and traumas and cellular memory, and through the portal of heart coherence. And a lot of like my clients, like when I do pranic tube activation of their light body through breath and through the Kundalini channel, they get stuck at the heart, like the energy can't rise. And when I first started really embodying the expression of this work, like I restored this experience of what I called crown chakra orgasms and bliss, and like these ways in which channels of energy would come into my higher chakras. And I would talk to people about that, and they're like, crown chakra orgasms, like, yeah, I'm not getting those. I'm like, oh, I thought like everyone just experiences this connection to this higher energy in that way. And so it really is this portal of reconnection to heart coherence, where there is this sacred union of the higher chakras and the lower chakras, and the portal of like unconditional love, oneness, unity, through which we get to bridge the gap and move into those higher expressions. And the downloads that you've been receiving around conscious creation of human beings and manifestations is really attuned to what I call like sex magic practices. And I've had so many downloads from my higher guidance that comes through my crown in connection to concepts around getting pregnant or creation, that we literally, if we are open enough to receive and like our channels are clear, we get to consciously co-create that experience when and how we decide. There's always this like divine plan, and it's always surrendering to the highest good of what our soul signed up for prior, and all the contracts and ways in which that we have like illuminated a plan for our highest ascension. At least in my experience, that's the case. But I have so many women, and even like myself, where it's like, ooh, you sense a baby in the field.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there she is. But you also, like, I work a lot with Pleiadians, they've really downloaded to me that you get to also decide when you're ready from like a place of embodiment to connect and bring forth that experience. So I think it's so powerful for, especially couples who are desiring to get pregnant and seem to have like resistance or blocks around that experience, or have manifested a pregnancy for which they don't desire and are navigating maybe, questions about what to do in that case. I've worked with both. I've worked with, clients who have navigated, thoughts or experiences of miscarriage or abortion, or, infertility. So it's really powerful when we start to open up these higher chakra connections to realms of the fields where all of those souls exist, and we get to have a conversation with them about when and how the best aligned timing is for them to come into the body. And if it's not happening and they're desiring it to happen, understanding why the physical body or that expression of person is not receiving them yet. So I love that, and it feels so connected to also this awakening of heart coherence, because it's really through the portal of the heart that we know when a soul is here, right? It's like the heartbeat in the womb, and we know that when a soul leaves, it's like the heartbeat is no longer there. So utilizing like the portal of heart coherence in order to bridge that connection is really.
And I love too, like that you've also been getting that download of like clearing out the wounds of the lower chakras through the heart, but also connecting the upper chakras through the heart. I feel like the heart is the bridge. It's like the meeting point where we experience our true nature, because the lower chakras tend to have to do with our human 3 and 4D embodied experience. And the higher chakras are more of our high access to higher dimensions and like more of our multidimensional selves and cosmic intelligence, creation, that kind of stuff. But as human beings that are souls living human lives, the heart is where we truly reside, where the truth of who we are resides. And we have been like stuck up in the mental realms for a long time, but it's sort of ping ponging back and forth between like the trauma in the lower chakras and the misconceptions in the upper chakras, and traumas as well in the upper chakras. And anchoring into the heart is like, for anybody listening for whom you're like, I'm not a priestess, I don't care about this, but you kind of want to access those levels of healing for yourself. I feel like the heart, like anchoring into the heart, is the place where you can't lie to yourself, and you do connect with those, with other beings. You connect with like unborn beings, yet physically unmanifest beings, manifested beings. It's just, there's this like field of coherence that happens where it's measured by the people at the Heart Math Institute that the field of our heart is in connection with each other all over the planet, and we influence each other through the electromagnetic field of our heart, and we're also in connection with nature and the earth through the field of our heart. And so that's really the true seat of our power. But we've kind of got stuck, like you said, in the, it's not even in the third eye, it's like some weird spot right behind our, like right in our frontal lobes.
Yeah, it's that like disconnection. I experience it as like pineal to pituitary, like on the endocrine level, like those represent a really divine balance of masculine and feminine. And when there's blocks energetically between the production of kind of the way that the pituitary creates cortisol and has a hormone that does that, and the pineal creates melatonin, when that like energy is not in balance.
Right.
Because like melatonin opens us up to all these like portals of astral potential of our highest mind, and our production with the pituitary around like things like cortisol and oxytocin, all about human bonding and stress response. So if we're not experiencing, the optimization of bonding and like lowered stress energy in our body, and then our body isn't producing melatonin, there exists like a physiological block on an anatomical level. And a book I want to recommend to anyone is Coming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good and really illuminates a lot of understanding of what we're talking about, especially through the portal of heart coherence. And I actually just put together a free ebook with another priestess goddess soul sister of mine. If anybody is interested about getting more connected to heart chakra, and there's a video in there about doing what's called the Thymus Thump. And it's literally just like tapping. And from my work, a lot of tapping is the kind of implementation techniques to illuminate a movement of energy to align the flow of head, heart, and belly wisdom. So please check that out if anyone is interested to receive a couple of different practices to get into heart coherence as a portal to illuminating more of your bliss body. And then there's a little meditation in there as well.
That's amazing. That's so generous. I love that. Please send me the whatever link or whatever so I can put it in the show notes so that people can easily check it out. And also the heart is like, I just can't say enough about it, because when I figured this out, it just changed everything for me. Where it's also the place where manifestation actually occurs, in my opinion. I mean, it implicates all of our different chakras, but the heart is like, if you skip over the heart, or you aren't really inhabiting the heart and the feeling frequency, it just doesn't translate. And it doesn't translate to being as beautiful as it could be, because our mind wants to micromanage the universe and doesn't fully trust. And the trust exists in our heart. That's where the surrender happens. And that's where just locking into the frequency of something happens. So it's like a portal to our bliss body. And it's also a portal to creating the experience that we desire for ourselves in this life, so that we're not constantly repeating the same old shit that we see in the outside world.
Yeah, really, the heart is the way, because it really is this space that we all align to that vibration of unconditional love and unity.
Mm-hmm.
Is really a lot of the wounds of the heart that that I witnessed and have personally experienced have to do with conditional self-love, or ways in which we're pinching ourselves off from receiving love from others or giving love to others. And as we pinch that flow from that like protective energy of wanting to shield against pain based on past experiences in this lifetime or others, it's like we're really squeezing the potential of that vibration to illuminate so much expansion on not only like our experience of the embodiment of the vibration of love, but also of receiving a lot of beautiful gifts from the universe.
Yeah.
In the portal of like our partnership and relationships and manifestations and abundance. If it's not in unity with this like purity of connection to the heart, and it comes more from the head ego desire, or like these lustful vibrations, lower chakra emotions that are out of survival, then we may get the things, but they're not actually in alignment with the vibration that's going to feel most fulfilling long term. So I think that when we understand, and for me, it's like been super unique to understand how the heart talks to you, whether it's like through a voice or through a sensation, but just beginning to have that conversation. And I love like all throughout the day, just tapping on my heart, doing that Thymus Thump in order to remind my body to come into that coherent place, especially if I am, desiring clarity or grounding, or, just wanting to come home.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Brittany, for coming on, and just for us to even be able to bounce our recent downloads off of each other. It just feels so good and so aligned and juicy and sparkly and magical. So thank you so much for being here today.
Love.
Everybody, I hope that you enjoyed this episode. And as usual, if you loved it, reach out to either of us or take a screenshot of yourself listening and tag us on social media. We would love that. I hope you have a beautiful day or night wherever you are. Hello, my friends. I feel like it's been couple minutes since I have done any kind of solo anything here, and many things have been evolving in my business and the stuff that I do that I want to share with you. So here's some updates. Okay, First of all, I just want to thank you all for listening. I recently found out that according to listennotes.com, this podcast ranks in the top 2.5 global ranking, 2.5% of listened podcasts out of over 2 million. And that utterly and totally blew my mind. I'm so thankful to all of you. And the thing is, for me, it's just so gratifying because it took such a gigantic leap of bravery to start making this podcast and to talk into my iPhone. I don't even have a microphone, straight up. I just record on Zoom, guys. Look, if you want to start a podcast, here's what. If you want to start a podcast, just fucking do it already, okay? Because what is there to lose? It's the easiest thing ever. I use the Anchor app. I'm going to give total shout outs to the Anchor app. I'm not a tech savvy person. I don't have a fancy setup. You can probably hear it in the sound quality, but it's not really that bad either. I literally do it in my cruddy little office at home but my desk is beautiful. It's just the rest of the office is full of clutter. And I record conversations with people on Zoom, and then I have somebody who helps me with it now so that it comes out every week, and she's the best. Shout out to you, Neris, and your team. Love you. But prior to working with Neris, I was just doing it by myself and uploading it to the Anchor app and writing my show notes and putting it out. And it's not hard, okay? Just do it. If there's something in you that wants to be shared, do it. I can't tell you how happy I am that these stories, these conversations are reaching people that resonate with it enough to listen, to keep listening. Because again, the whole reason I started it is because I knew that my feelings of alienation and loneliness and like fears of being that I was just crazy and all my anxiety, everything that I went through in my spiritual awakening, I knew I was not unique in that. I knew that other people were experiencing it, and that I just wanted to be part of creating more welcoming conversations around those experiences and giving space for people to just share and be seen and witnessed and all that stuff. So I love you. Thank you. I know I tell you on every episode, but I literally love you. I feel love in my heart for all of the listeners, even if I don't know you individually. Also, as it grows, I'm getting a lot of messages, and I'm so sorry that I can't answer them all anymore. I used to be able to because I would get like a handful a week, and now I get like so many. I just found a back folder in my Facebook messages full of messages that were marked as spam under my message requests. So even when I went to my message requests, I still wasn't seeing them. And so if I haven't answered you, I'm so sorry, and it really isn't that I don't care. It's just that I logistically, as a human being, I can't answer people the way that I want to. But every time I receive a message, and now I know there's an extra place I have to look, it fills my heart with the greatest amount of joy. So in order to sort of mitigate that, I have decided upon two things. I've decided to create a Patreon and a Rockfin channel, and I will tell you what's up with both of those. So I have my free Facebook group, Soul Space, which when I have the time, I like to show up about once a week and ramble and rant about whatever the fuck somebody asks me about, or whatever I feel like talking about. And sometimes I can't keep up with that because I have a toddler and I'm pregnant, but I just love the soul space community. But I also don't love Facebook or Instagram, TBH. And I know a lot of people, I get a lot of messages from people who aren't on there, or like emails from people who aren't on there, or like random Instagram accounts that people just make just so they can reach out and message me, but they're like, I'm not actually on Instagram, or like, I don't go to Facebook. So I want to open things up a little bit. And I've recorded so many absolutely fantastic conversations for this podcast
I have a huge bank of episodes right now to share, which kind of covers me for my self-gifted maternity leave, because when you have a baby, it's very hard to be consistent. If anybody's had babies, they know what I'm talking about. When you have a newborn, you're like in a twilight zone of like no day, no night. Who knows what day of the week it is? All you know is like your baby is content or not. That's all you know. And it feels like a genuine win to have like a meal and a shower. So I'm prepared to not have any interruptions in the continuity of the podcast when I welcome this new baby into my life in the next couple months. So, but I decided, like, I have not done a solo episode here in a long time. And guys, I have a lot to say. More than ever, I'm channeling like crazy. I am channeling what feels like light codes, meaning it's super high consciousness stuff that is beyond words. And yet I'm also being assisted in decoding it and translating it and anchoring it down into human understanding so that we can integrate it into the way we navigate our 3D lives. And I have nowhere to put it right now because I'm doing so many Akashic readings. I'm so busy, and I'm also recording so many awesome interview/guest conversations for the podcast. So I've decided to create a Rockfin and a Patreon for that reason. I don't adore Patreon because they do the censorship thing. I by far love Rockfin, and Rockfin is going to be the place where I just let it all hang out and I don't censor myself. Because I do censor myself here. I try to not speak certain words that, attract a lot of attention so that I don't lose my podcast. And that's how I try to function on Facebook and Instagram too. But somehow on Instagram, I've gotten low-key censored. It's really weird. So that anytime I do an IGTV live or an Instagram live with somebody else, it gets taken away. Or if I try to do it and post it myself, it gets taken away for violating community standards. But I figured out a backdoor way of recording it on Facebook and then downloading it to my computer and then uploading it to Instagram. But I still have to be so careful about the words that I say. And also, P.S., if you've ever tried to respond to a comment that I've made on your Instagram post, you will notice that you can't comment. And you also can't tag me in things sometimes. It's really weird. You can't tag me in things on your grid, I don't think. I don't know. It's just weird. So censorship is real. And I don't even hardly talk about anything that's like opinionated, I don't think, or I don't use the keywords. But that doesn't mean I don't have opinions, and it doesn't mean I don't have a perspective that I really want to share about some of the fuckery that's happening in the world right now, and guidance I've received from the Akasha, as well as ascended ones that are coming and working with me at night, delivering messages, and just through, random channeling in general around how to navigate this. So I'm creating a Rockfin channel where I'm just going to go like straight into it. No censorship, no holding back at all whatsoever. It'll probably sometimes be solo episodes. It'll be lots of conversations with people that I'm like, we could dig into it. Do you wanna? And I'm also creating a Patreon, which will be more of those like solo things and kind of mini trainings, as it were. So they're less around the stuff I'm avoiding for censorship, and they're more about trainings around connecting with our spirit guides, channeling, how to work with crystals. Fairies was one that somebody asked me about recently, and I was like, yes, I can totally talk about fairies because they are real. And what else? Oh, timelines and like timeline jumping, things like that. So those are some exciting things in the works. Like I said, I pay a beautiful soul named Neris, who also has a team. So I'm not sure who it is that edits these podcast episodes. But anyway, I pay Neris to help me stay consistent with this podcast and produce a beautiful, high quality listening experience for you with the raw material I give to her. And I am really committed to keeping this podcast free. It feels so good to keep it free and to keep it ad-free, but it costs me every single episode to make it. So I'm losing money creating this podcast at this time. And if you want to support me or give back in any way, or just help keep the podcast going, and then you can either subscribe to Rockfin, or you can subscribe to Patreon, or both if you want, but you don't have to. I'm not doing this to like try and squeeze money out of everybody. It's more just like there are two different options. Depends on what kind of Amy quality content you would like. Okay, so there's that. Second, or maybe that's third, I don't know. Next, my calendar is fully booked out. I do not have any spaces for any more readings at all because I'm having a baby. So thank you to everybody who has booked in for a reading. If I've already done your reading, I'm so glad I got to connect with you. If I have yet to do your reading, I'm so excited to connect with you. It's been so much fun. I can't do any more. I literally don't have any room to squeeze it in. So that's the end of Akashic readings until who knows. I don't know what's going to come on the other side of having a baby or when I will be ready to do readings again, because I have to meet this baby. I have to find out what he or she is like, what their personality is like, how much sleep I get, how reliable I can be, so for the time being, there are no more readings. However, I will continue creating group programs and courses for your exploration and learning pleasure. And the next thing that goes really beautifully with this conversation with Brittany is what I've got coming up like right now. Basically, it starts in a few days, is the Priestess Codes portal. And as you know, I'm a terrible marketer. I really am awful. I never tell you guys on the podcast what's going on because I totally forget, honestly. And sometimes I think about hiring a person who will take over my marketing for me. And then I'm like, why? It works. It works for me. Hopefully you guys aren't like crunchy and crusty about feeling like you're never kept in the loop, but I don't know what to say. Eventually, I will probably get an email list going. That's the best I can say. But what I have coming up is the Priestess Codes portal. So this is an 8-week experience. I can't even call it a program because genuinely it's not. It is a portal. It's a transformation and rebirth opportunity or experience for anybody who carries the priestess template, the priestess archetype. I received instructions. I think I shared this. I know I've talked about it in a couple of the conversations that I've had. But I received instructions on December 20th, 2020, in a 5-minute span where I took 5 minutes out of my day of momming and doing laundry and doing dishes to just sit in quiet peace and receive guidance. And I was guided to take those 5 minutes. And in that 5 minutes, I received a powerful initiation and activation of my own, informing me that I am a priestess. I carry the priestess archetype, and that it is the time of the priestess to come forward, that so many of us have been dormant like seeds underground. And it is time for us to basically to germinate, grow, and bloom, because we carry the frequency of the original uncorrupt divine blueprint of human beings as we shift into this next evolutionary stage for everybody who is choosing the organic ascension timeline, meaning everybody who is choosing not the transhumanist timeline, everybody who is choosing to raise their consciousness and vibrate at a higher rate that is closer to nature. It is in greater harmony with nature, and it is in activation of our latent and dormant psychic gifts. Everybody who's choosing that, we have this beautiful, original, uncorrupted, divine blueprint in our DNA. And human DNA has received corruption through time. It has been tampered with on so many levels, so many levels. And we kind of forget. We've forgotten what we're capable of. I had forgotten. Like, I kind of knew, but I was only seeing like the tippy tip of the iceberg, okay? Like the tippy tip. So anyway, on December 20th, I received this message: you're a priestess. It's time for the priestess to rise. The priestess will lead with that uncorrupt blueprint. It's not that the priestess is the only one who has it. It's just that the priestess archetype is the one that will bring it forward first and turn it on first. And then the divine masculine, the sacred Merlins will follow. And then the rest of humanity that's chosen this timeline will calibrate to that. So we all have it, but the priestesses are coming first. And that I am supposed to initiate priestesses this year into their priestesshood and reactivate their dormant codes, basically. And not gonna lie, it scared the bejeebs out of me. It made me very uncomfortable. It was so confronting. In no way did I feel like a priestess. In fact, I felt like a slob toddler mom that works from home. And like, just not glamorous and beautiful at all. And also, like, it brought up all of my, like, who the fuck am I? And like, do I have the audacity to claim this? All this stuff. It was super uncomfortable. But I could also feel that this is what I came for, and the cost of backing down out of this, out of my own fear and unworthiness, would be tremendous to me. Like, it would be one of the greatest regrets I ever experienced, that looking back, on my deathbed, so to speak, I would deeply regret it. So I committed to doing it, and that did not make it easier. It has brought to the surface every limiting program that I've had. And it has had to be dealt with and like cleared. And I had to feel all the feels, do all the processing and let it go. But it also has been the best thing I've ever done. The most powerful activation I have ever received. The amplification of my ability to channel, the amplification of my own psychic abilities has been, I can't put it into words. The information that I received. So I channeled 8 transmissions about the priestess and about the direction for humanity in the future, like the now and the future. And that information, I didn't have it in my human brain. It was new to me as I received it, and completely game-changing. So, and the activations continue. That's the wild thing, is like, this week they kind of chilled out on me a little bit, I think because I was getting a little overloaded, but I've woken up in the night to realizing I'm being worked on. And I don't really know how to describe that other than to say that it feels like I can feel things being removed out of me, but they're being removed out of my mind, out of the matrix of my mind. Things that are false, they aren't true, blocks, things like that. And I'm being repatterned with deeper truth. And it kind of sounds like voices, but the voices aren't outside of me. It's like words, and I can hear somebody talking and I can feel how good it feels. And I'm aware that there's a tremendous amount of light being channeled into my body. And then I just go back to sleep and I just let them carry on. So the activations continue and more information keeps channeling through. So this information, these particular transmissions are for anybody who carries the priestess archetype. I know, like I just told you, how massively confronting it is and how hard it is to own that. It makes you feel like owning the term priestess feels like you're saying, or to me, it felt like I was saying I thought I was better than somebody else. That's not how it is at all. This isn't an ego thing. This isn't at all. That's not what it means at all. It just means, wow, I carry incarnations worth of devotion to certain sacred ancient wisdom and mystery teachings that I didn't even know. That's all it is that I've had a lot of incarnations that were devoted to that, cultivating that, and that it is in this incarnation that it was intended to be brought forward in the fullest expression of what it is. So if you resonate with this, if the word priestess feels like it lands on you and it's like, oh, and it might feel really confronting, but it also feels familiar or true, then this is for you. This is for you. We start on Monday, April 26th, which is the full moon, with a welcome call. And then the first transmission is dripped out on Wednesday, and every Wednesday a new transmission will be dripped out. These are so dense and powerful. They're absolutely life-changing, completely transformational. And there's no coincidence too that when I actually stepped into this and agreed to step into it and really committed to it, my whole business changed. My whole presence changed. The quality of my readings changed. Like everything sort of morphed around this new level of accepting of my power and my ability to have the influence that I always dreamed of having on our collective evolution. And again, it's not about being better than anybody else. It's just about allowing myself to be all that I came here to be. So on a physical material level, it has rearranged the shit out of my life, brought totally different people into my life, brought all kinds of business into my life. It's just been amazing, but it feels more important on the energetic level even. So there's 8 transmissions as it stands right now. It's an 8-week journey, an 8-week experience, 1 transmission a week. There will be 4 group calls and a private group container, I guess, like a forum or a space that we get to interact with each other, witness each other, share what we received from the material and the insights, which was the most exciting thing about round 1 that happened in the winter. It's just really, it's a sacred sisterhood. In one of those group calls, we will be doing a group Akashic reading and going into everybody's unique priestess archetype template. And what else? You get to keep the transmissions for life and all the materials for life because they're so rich. They, honest to God, like the other people that have received them, some of them I know, like listen to them repeatedly, like time after time after time. It's amazing, and message me and they're like, oh my God, this part and that part. And it's funny because I don't even remember what I channeled because I just kind of go into a semi-trance and just like receive the information and speak it out loud. Anyway, if you are ready to step into your activation in an exponentially accelerated way, where you move into the next level of your power, it's probably like the next several levels of your power, honestly, fast, and like get down to business and be the person, be the priestess that you came here to be, that you know you intended for yourself when you decided to be born into this life. And to have a sense of direction of like how that is supposed to look and what you are supposed to do, then please join us. I would love to have you. It is limited spaces, but we do have a handful of spots left. And it would be my absolute honor to witness you in the unfolding of your power and your magic. So I have a link in the bio of my Instagram and a link in the bio of my Facebook, but Instagram's the best place to go, that you can check it out. And if you're not on Instagram, but you want the information, then just send me an email and I will send it to you. And I think that's it. I have more things up my sleeve, but I want to get this Rockfin and Patreon situation going first before I move into the next course that I'm going to create or program that I'm going to create. I've always got something up my sleeve. I'm a manifesting generator. It's just kind of how it works. I've got ideas, you guys. I'm constantly inspired. It's insane. That's my news. I have so many things I want to share. I could literally talk to you for hours, but hopefully you will join me on either Patreon or Rockfin to hear me ramble for hours. And sometimes you will catch me on Soul Space rambling for, usually it's like an hour. I'm not kidding. But that's all I got for you today for now. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I love you all very much. Catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for being here with me on this episode. I appreciate you more than my words could ever say. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, and share, and I will catch you on the next episode.